So huge shout out to Stir Trek. Is this anybody's first Stir Trek? Maybe a couple, 1, 2, sweet. How many have gone to Stir Trek in the past, like more than once? 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8, 9, 10 plus. Cool, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, super stoked to be back here at Stir Trek. This is my third time speaking, I think in 10 years, because it's an extremely hard event to get into, but that's by default. It's a great event that everybody puts on. So if you do see anybody in a volunteer shirt, or if you see anybody that is one of the organizers, please tell them thank you, give them a handshake, give them a hug, whatever their preference is. This is a great event, and I'm glad to see it still moving forward after all these years, especially post-COVID, because a lot of events have struggled to come back post-COVID. So huge, huge shout out to everybody that makes Stir Trek possible, including all of you. If you get a chance to, I know there's not a whole lot of sponsor booths out there, but if you get a chance in passing or on the internet, if you could thank the sponsors. If it wasn't for sponsors, we wouldn't have events. It costs money for this kind of stuff. It's not cheap to run a conference. And the day the conference is over is the day you start planning for the next year and try to solidify those sponsors again. So if you get a chance, thank the sponsors. If there's any swag on the booths, just grab functional swag. You don't need another beer koozie and another pen, right? Hand sanitizer, portable batteries, that's it. That's all you need, trust me. Thank you for coming to my talk. I'm actually giving another talk right after this. So if you are into the paranormal world, like I am, you will dig the next talk. So hopefully you stick around. If not, it's no big deal. There's amazing speakers at this event this year, and some are speaking right next to me. So I'm really, really stoked that you're all here. My name is Chris DeMars. I'm a senior developer advocate at TuxCare. Is anybody familiar with TuxCare? Yay, nay, hands up, hands down, no? Cool. So I'm gonna give you a little spiel about TuxCare. One of the things that we do at TuxCare, we offer endless lifecycle support for end-of-life systems. So what does that mean? We patch dependencies of software, libraries, frameworks, operating systems that is no longer supported by the vendor or the community. We patch those security vulnerabilities. You pull them in and we keep you patched as the source of the product in the company that you're working with moving forward during your migrations or whatever the case may be. So if you're running older versions of Angular, AngularJS, Vue, Python, Java, PHP, .NET, older versions of various Linux distros, because we do a lot of Linux distribution, we'll patch that stuff for you. We also have another product called Kernel Care, which is live rebootless patching for Linux distributions, and we support over 70 plus distributions. So that's pretty cool. You don't have to take your system down in order to patch it, which a lot of big systems run on big Linux distributions. And you don't have to take any of that down. We patch it on the fly for you. So I'm a senior developer advocate there. I focus on the front end ecosystem, so the front end side of endless lifecycle support. You can catch me on Twitter at Salt and Burnham. You can catch me on Blue Sky, chrisdemars.net. Any supernatural fans in the audience? This is a safe space. I know it's simulcast to a couple rooms, but this is all going to be safe. So put your hand up if you love supernatural. All right, then you'll understand the reference in the Twitter handle, Salt and Burnham. Any Buffy fans? Buffy? Yeah? No? Come on. You guys are a bunch of nerds and all hands are up. Charmed? Do we have any Charmed fans? Is there hands up back there? I can't tell. No Charmed fans? Wow. All right, this one gets everybody. Stranger Things? What? How you get out of my room? Only season 1, whatever, it's fine. That's no big deal. Listen, season 5 was awesome, okay? Season 5 was awesome. A little bit more about me. I'm a paranormal enthusiast. I am a competitive bass angler, so yes, I get in a bass boat and I fish for money. And I'm all around cool guy if you don't know me. I'm pretty sweet. You can ask a lot of cats around this conference. The official hashtag for the event is Stir Trek. There's a lot of meta information before I get into this. I just have to cover this stuff. It's an ADHD thing. So if you are tweeting or LinkedIn or on anybody still on Mastodon? No? Blue Sky? Twitter? It'll always be Twitter. It'll never be X. It'll always be Twitter. LinkedIn? Man, okay. Well, if you are on any socials and you're tweeting or you're posting pictures or anything like that, the official hashtag for the event is StirTrek. I would really appreciate it. I know the conference organizers and the volunteers really appreciate it. They can track the engagement, see who's in what talk, see what people are enjoying. If you can also throw this on there too, hashtag developer community. Has anybody seen me give a conference talk before? In all of the years, nobody? Y'all are newbies to me? Cool. Y'all are gonna have some fun. So hashtag developer community. Developer community is my lifeblood. I kind of was iterating on this earlier about post-COVID. COVID kind of ruined a lot of stuff for us. We're still going through a lot of BS in the world right now. And during that time, in my opinion, we almost lost developer community. I don't know about you, but speaking into a camera without my audience is not fun. I need community. You guys are my lifeblood. So I travel all over the world so I can be here with you on the front lines to talk to you, to mentor, to learn, to teach. So if you're posting anything on socials, if you could use hashtag developer community, that would mean the world to me. And then there are show notes for this event. So if you want the slides are available. The resources for this talk are also available. I'm recording the talk right now. So once I get back to Michigan, edit it, I'll put it up there. You have an opportunity to win a prize, or you can just be notified when the video drops if you want to rewatch the talk again before StirTrek puts them out. And you will be good to go. So I'll give you a couple seconds to. This will also be available at the end of the talk. So if you don't get it right now, you'll be able to get it then. Come see me between the break between talks, but I do have to split right after the second talk and head back to Michigan. Everybody good with that? QR code, sweet. I also believe in various cryptids, ghosts, and UFOs. So if you want to talk about any of that stuff, please hit me up on socials. We can have a conversation about all of that. The title of the talk today is Ghosts in the Machine, Tampering with the JavaScript Supply Chain. Is anybody, how many front-end devs are in my room? Cool. Back-end? Designers? Product owner, product manager, C-level? Cool. I dig it. A little caveat. I just want to let everybody know, all JavaScript is haunted. It doesn't matter. It's all haunted. If you know me, I have a love-hate relationship with JavaScript. I've been building on the web for 30 plus years. I am an old school developer still. I believe in the separation of concerns. I believe that CSS should be in its own file. I'm super old school. But all JavaScript is haunted. And the reason it is all haunted is because of one person working at one company that built this language in 10 days. And we still have bugs, maybe minimal, right? But we still have bugs till this day, and we never know what's going on. Has anybody seen Gary Bernhardt's talk, his WAT talk? Okay, so y'all know the old school WAT talk, right? If you haven't seen it, go on YouTube, Google, or go on YouTube and search for Gary Bernhardt WAT, W-A-T. It's a hilarious lightning talk on JavaScript. You'll think twice about writing JavaScript. So the agenda for this session, we're going to talk about the hook. We're going to talk about some ghost stories. Not real ones, but if you want to talk about real ghost stories, we can. We're going to talk about the investigation, and then we're going to talk about how to protect yourself. So we have the hook. So think about this for a second. How many front-end devs we got in the room? Handful? Okay, sweet. NPM is a vast ecosystem of packages upon packages upon packages upon packages. You can think of it as like an endless forest. Just full, like a haunted forest full of trees. You don't know what's in there. You're too scared to venture into that, right? Think about the hundreds and thousands of packages that may or may not be in your project and what could be lurking inside those packages. I love this meme right here. The heaviest, has everybody seen this one? The heaviest objects in the universe, right? You got the sun, which is and then you got the neutron star, then you got a black hole, and you got your node modules, and your node modules just keeps going and 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 going, and it doesn't stop. There's another one out there, another cool meme. It's funny, it's in another one of my JavaScript talks, security talks. It is Forrest Gump, and the meme is life is like a box, or life is like an NPM install. You never know what you're gonna get. It's very true if you really dig down deep into what you're installing, because 9 times out of 10, if you've done the install before, you're doing it by muscle memory, and touch typing, and you're not going to think about what you're doing, and there could be mistakes that come into that. So let's talk about some ghost stories. This is a fun one. Most cybersecurity incidents were linked to unapplied patches. Now, 60.4% of incidents occurred while a patch was available but was not applied. Let me make this a little bit bigger. A patch was available, but it was not applied. Why would that be? And you can answer it, it's fine if you don't want to, but there's multiple reasons. I call this cutting corners, right? If you've ever, well, most of you never, and none of you have seen me give a talk before, which is totally cool. Paul has. But I've given a lot of talks all over the world on accessibility, web accessibility, digital accessibility. I kind of built a career around web accessibility, front-end architecture, and there is such thing as a front-end architecture. Don't argue with me on that. There was actually a book written by Micah Godbolt years ago. If you don't know who Micah Godbolt is, you are not as old as I am when building on the web. Semantic CSS, semantic architectures, all this cool stuff, and web accessibility. Web accessibility falls under the umbrella of the UX, the user experience. There's two other things that fall underneath that umbrella: performance and security. All three of those are never cared about from the beginning, and corners are cut. And then when shit hits the fan, we have problems. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that, let's say someone is in a plane, subway, somewhere where there isn't good network connectivity, and they can't use a website or an application, right? Well, someone didn't optimize the critical rendering path before shipping the product. We didn't build it out to be a PWA, a progressive web app, and we didn't cache our resources, so now they can't use that product. And shout out to StirTrek's app. It's a really badass app. It's a PWA. Shout out to that. So that's a performance issue, right? Let's say someone can't use our website because the color contrast is wrong. There's no alt attributes on our images. The flow is wrong. The tab order is wrong. The tab order is negative when it should have been with the regular flow of the document. Now we have a lawsuit on our hands because we cut a corner. Same with security. We didn't patch these vulnerabilities. We didn't sanitize our markup. We didn't run any vulnerability checks on the stuff we were installing. We didn't configure our workflow and our CI/CD and our npmrc configs properly to install the proper packages because we were too worried about a Jira sprint, a story point, a paycheck, a boss yelling at us, failing our team, right? We wanted to get it done and out the door. So we cut these corners. That's why this comes into play. A patch was available, but was not applied. So why am I telling you this? Why am I telling you this? And this is not my code, and you can't read it anyway, but it all comes down to supply chain. Is anybody currently working in software supply chain? Is anybody building open source software? Yeah. Then you're working in supply chain. At the end of the day, software supply chain is everything that makes up the products that we're building. A lot of it's open source, it's licenses, it's certificates, it's people, it's trust. All of these things go into supply chain. You can sort of think of it as a big Jenga tower, right? You got some good stuff on one side, you got some bad stuff on the other. But when that bad stuff starts to crack or pull away from the good stuff, well, I'm sure we've all played Jenga before, right? We know how that works. It all comes crashing down. Software supply chain is incredibly important. And I usually try to make this point at the end of the talk, but I'm going to make the point for you right now because it's extremely important. When I do my accessibility talks, and I talk about this a lot, but since this falls under the UX umbrella, it makes sense to talk about it. At the end of the day, we are ambassadors to the world. And why is that? We are shipping software down the pipe that could save someone's life in a medical setting. Think about that. We are shipping software down the pipe that could help a child read. Think about that. Put yourself in that situation. And not to quote Silicon Valley, but we are attempting to make the world a better place. That's why this stuff matters. That's why supply chain matters. That's why accessible, performance, secure software matters. Because we are doing these things. And we're not really cognizant of that. We don't really take a step back to think about that. But as ambassadors to the world, ambassadors of the web, of software, these are things we really need to start thinking about moving forward. So the reason I bring all of this stuff up, anybody familiar with this? The Shai-Hulud worm, right, in Dune. I've never actually seen Dune. I am a nerd, but I am not a Dune nerd. I am a paranormal nerd. I'm a horror nerd, Jurassic Park nerd, Nicolas Cage nerd up here. Shout out to Paul. Shout out to Paul, my boy Paul. This was a big attack last year. I think there was actually 2 of them. And it all had to do with this. This was the first one. The @control/tinycolor package. Supply chain attack, self-propagating malware, infects 40 plus NPM packages. 2 million weekly downloads, and the severity level was critical from this package. Okay, sweet. You look at a package like this, and you're like, well, that's a scope package, Chris. It is a scope package. It is a direct dependency, but it's also used as a transitive dependency. And because of that, it just filtered down the pipeline when it was getting installed. And all this is a color function. I think it might like change a color or look up a color. Or it's very, very small, but it's just a color function. I don't think it really does much more than that. But because of this, the big Shai-Hulud attack happened last year. And like I said, there was a second one, I believe. There's another one out there that happened last year that affected GlueStack. Does anybody work in React Native? Is anybody familiar with React Native? Cool. So if you're not familiar with React Native is a framework, library. It's not a framework, it's not a library. It's a framework for building mobile apps using React. And you're using React Native, then it compiles down into Java, Kotlin, let's say iPhone, Android, and web. And GlueStack is it's a UI framework for React Native. So if you're familiar with Shad, if you're familiar with Tailwind, sort of like the same principle, and 16 different packages were affected from a NPM attack in GlueStack. A handful of packages were affected, and that affected a bunch of other stuff. So it was a huge NPM attack for React Native. So that's another reason why I talk about this. And we've had a bunch of them. We just had the Axios attack. SAP is getting it. It's all over the place. It seems like vulnerability, NPM attacks are happening all the time. So let's talk about transitive dependencies, because this is kind of where all of this stems from. Is everybody familiar with what a transitive dependency is? Put your hand up. Cool. Who's not familiar? All right. That's cool. That is totally fine, because we are here to learn. So first things first, one of the things about transitive dependencies is that they're often overlooked. Why is that? Because a transitive dependency is going to be buried inside your node modules within a package. And it could be a package within a package. And there could be 5 different package JSON files within one package inside your node modules. How many of you are going through your node modules on a daily basis, looking at every single package and looking at the package JSON of every single package? None of you. And if you are a super nerd. And I give you mad props for doing that. I don't have time to do that. And I also trust what I'm installing. And maybe we put too much trust in those things. But at the end of the day, there was a developer out there that is smarter than I am that built this package that I need, right? If I had that level of knowledge, and like I said, I've been doing this for a long time, but there are a lot of cats out there that are extremely brilliant when it comes to this stuff. I would have built it myself. but I'm trusting the developer with this package to install it. It's a major source of supply chain attacks. You just saw the Shai-Hulud worm. There was the glue stack attack. Excuse me. Axios a few weeks ago. A huge, huge attack. It's one of the biggest major source of supply chain attacks. So what is it? What is a transitive dependency? That's a great question. You can sort of think of it like this. A package that is automatically included because another package requires it. So what does that look like in practice? Let's take this project for example. Here's a list of dependencies. This is an Angular 20 project. I think Angular 20 is end of life. But this is Angular 20. Okay, so we install Angular 20. RxJS is a direct because it's there when we install Angular. Now, there's nothing wrong with RxJS. I'm not saying there's vulnerabilities in this package. I'm just talking about transitive and direct dependencies. So let's say that we go into our node modules, we find our RxJS package, we look at it, and we open up the package.json file. And in the package.json file, there's tslib 210. Now, did you install tslib? You didn't. You didn't install this. But since you installed Angular, and Angular also installed RxJS, which it's supposed to do, tslib came along for the ride within that RxJS package. Now you wouldn't know that unless maybe you got an error in your terminal about peer dependencies and you run npm or yarn audits, whatever. Or you dig in your node modules and you go through your packages and you look at your package.json and you see this package. Excuse me. Now, if I were to ask you, how would you check packages within your project? Would you know how to do that? Is anybody still using not still using, I should say. Is anybody using the terminal right now? Okay, so everybody likes you. Okay, so let's see. Who's a fan of Warp? I use Warp. I love Warp. What about Ghosty? Who's anybody using Ghosty? Couple, sweet. iTerm? Yeah, you're old school, Paul. iTerm 2? Oh, okay, yeah, there you go. iTerm 2. Windows subsystem for Linux. Windows users. Well, yeah, I'm a Mac user, so I ain't got time for Windows. I'm not hating on any Windows people. Just keep that in mind. There is a way you can check it in your terminal. You can run npm ls. So if you open up your terminal, you run npm ls. This will give you a list of your dependencies. So this is a project, an Angular project. This was for Michigan.net. I was building this out just to show the demo. This is the integrated terminal inside VS Code. I'm running npm ls and boom, we got some packages. Sweet, that's cool. I can see maybe 30, I don't know, I can't count, 30. Now, if I asked you if it was possible to view all of them, would you say it's possible? Yeah. Yeah. Why wouldn't you want to do that though? Yeah. There could be a lot of packages, right? There might be 500, 1,000. How many packages do you think is in your JavaScript app today? Something that you're building, a project. 300? Thousands? A million? 1.21 gigawatts? Back to the future. There's a lot, right? And it could take a long time for that to load. You could deal with terminal overflow, like buffer overflow, but it is possible. All you have to do is run npm ls-all. ls stands for list if you're a Linux nerd like me. npm list all the packages, the all flag, and you can do that. So you just run in your terminal npm ls-all. And we'll get some packages. Awesome, we got them all, right? But it scrolls, and it scrolls, and it scrolls. I promise it stops. This is usually the time where I tell a joke, just to, kill the dead air. Okay, here's a joke for you. What is a spider's favorite job? Web developer. I love it. All right, I got a dad joke for you. What is Santa Claus's favorite motorcycle? A Harley Davidson. That was a good one. Don't hate on me for my jokes. And it's done. Sweet. So you can list out all the projects, all the dependencies within your application. You might not always want to do that though, depending, and that's a lot of stuff to go through, and it's up to you if you want to do it. But one of the issues that we see on the web and in software is a thing we call typo squatting. Is everybody familiar with typo squatting? Yeah? Is anybody not familiar with typo squatting? Cool. Awesome. So what is that? That is when an attacker registers a package that is off by a letter or has too many letters. There's two ways this works. One is with domain registration. How many of you have went into your address bar and you typed in GitHub.com? All of you have. All of you have. Because you try to be slick and fast like a hacker, and the I and the U are right next to each other. So you type GitHub.com and it goes to GitHub.com because I think GitHub owns GitHub.com. I think. Don't quote me on that. So that's one way. Attackers will register domain names that are off, hoping or expecting you or anybody to type in the wrong URL. You're not paying attention, you're just looking at the site. The site mimics, matches down to functionality, the same exact thing that you were trying to go to. So GitHub.com looks just like GitHub.com. You log in, now your credentials are gone. They have a way to access your stuff. Now you're in big trouble. It's not cool. So how does that happen? Well, I kind of just talked about it. An attacker registers something that is off by a letter or has too many letters. So the first one was the domain. The second way we see this is with NPM packages. It is extremely prevalent. And not just NPM, but PyPy, possibly the Windows world, NuGet or WinGet or whatever Microsoft users use, whatever the Microsoft ecosystem uses. So that's how it happens. One big issue out there was the cross-env package. If you're familiar with what happened with this, an attacker registered a package without the dash. This was installed, and it was wrapped in the same exact functionality. And in the back end, it was stealing credentials. Like a lot of stuff happened because of the cross-env package. Another one that I like to talk about is Express. Now, I don't think anything actually happened with Express, but how many have installed Express in a project before? If you're building a simple API or something like that, or you're building like the mean stack, right? If anybody still builds mean, you had to install Express. I don't have to go to NPM, I don't have to go to Express's website to figure out how to install Express. I don't need to copy npm I Express. I can type it. I've done it before. But there is there's a chance that you could miss that double S, right? And you install Express with EXPRES instead of SS, the double S on the end of that. And now, you're not going to check in your package.json file. You're not going to check your packages. You're just going to see, oh, cool, my terminal says it was installed. I'm not really paying attention. And now you might have just opened yourself up to a lot of issues, a lot of security vulnerabilities. Why? Because a major source of supply chain attacks happen within transitive dependencies. And there could be a lot of transitive dependencies within that package. There is another issue we have out there. Who is not familiar with dependency confusion? Okay. So nearly 49% of organizations are exposed to risks of a dependency confusion attack. So what does that look like? Let's say you have CI/CD set up or some type of pipeline, runs npm install. It's going to go to the npm registry you want it to go to your private registry, but it goes to the public registry. It installs a malicious package. What is happening there? Well, there's a couple different ways you can look at this. One of the reasons this happens is if you don't have your CI/CD configured properly, you don't have the proper gates in place, and if your npm rc isn't configured properly, when it goes to install something, it's going to go to the public registry instead of the public one, or the private one. Another way this kind of plays out is that npm by default is automatically going to install the latest version of a package. So let's say an attacker registers in a package that matches yours one for one, but bumps up the version number. npm, when you go to install that, is automatically going to take that one because it thinks, oh, hey, if it has a latest version number and this version is higher than this one must be the latest version because npm is dumb. That's the way that works. And then you have an attack that's going to happen because of the dependency confusion. So how do you prevent dependency confusion? Well, there's one way that you can do that, and there's a couple different ways, but one of the main ones is scoping your packages. Now, you saw that with the at control tiny color. If you are using any type of design system out there, I know like material, everything is ampersand or at symbol material / whatever. That's what this looks like. At scope, so usually your project or your org, whatever the case may be, / your package, your awesome package or whatever. Because if it's a scope package, it makes it a little bit more difficult to not install this one and then install a different one. So this is an example that I built for a talk talking about dependency confusion. This is just a Vite and React app. It's pulling in a scope package, and it's just a demo button. The button isn't, anything fancy. And the way it looks is if you go back to the UI, that's what it looks like. Just you got the secure scoped action right there. You go back and you pull in another package called legit package that isn't scoped, same button or same imported demo button, but there's malicious activity behind it. It throws a bunch of alerts, it inverses all the CSS because npm installed the unscoped version instead of the scoped version because it wasn't specified in the npm rc file. There's a tool out there called Verdaccio. Is anybody familiar with Verdaccio? Okay, sweet. 1, 2 people. Verdaccio is really cool. You can mimic an npm registry or Artifactory or whatever you're using. But like, let's say you wanted to put out some packages or build some demo stuff and you didn't want to push it to npm, you can push it to Verdaccio and Verdaccio will mimic how npm handles it. It's pretty cool how it works. The npm rc file I have set up for that demo specifically, it mimics a private repo and a public repo, or a public registry and a private registry. So based on that, since it isn't configured, one is going to show how it looks when it's installed the wrong way, and one's going to look how it is installed the right way, because the npm rc file isn't configured to only install directly from the private registry. And because of that, you could have a bunch of wonky stuff happening with your machine. Package JSON files that are getting written, network calls that are coming out of nowhere. All this type of stuff could be happening to your machine under the hood that you are unaware of. And you start getting into pre-install scripts and post-install scripts. And if you want to know more about that, we can have conversations on the web about that, Twitter, Slack, LinkedIn. We don't have to talk about pre- and post-install scripts if we don't want to. So let's talk about the investigation here. Let's investigate the paranormal stuff that is happening to our machine. And let's start with the package lock. And it could be a yarn lock or a bun lock. But the package lock JSON file. So what is it? It's one of those things, it's almost like an anomaly. It's like, ooh, package JSON. Do I commit my package JSON file? Ooh, what's in my package JSON file? Did it change? Does someone else on my team need this package JSON file, this lock file? I don't know. What is a lock file? It's the simplest terms. It describes a single representation of a dependency tree, so your project, right? You can sort of think about it like time travel, Back to the Future, 1.21 gigawatts. So you can go back in time and see what was installed. You can see visibility of changes, so it'll tell you the changes that are in your package lock from version to version. Optimizes the installation process because everything is there. You have that to go off of. And then it's a complete picture of the package tree. And there's a bunch of information in there, versions, tons and tons of stuff. That is what a package lock is. That is kind of the single source of truth for your project. Now, I was talking about this. Always, always, always commit your lock files. Why is that? Because let's say I'm working on something and Paul's also on my team and we're working on the same project, but there was versions that were pushed to the repo and I'm on older versions and Paul is on newer versions or vice versa. And we're working on it and neither one of us did a fresh Git pull. So we're working on two different versions of packages that are within a project. Well, there might be vulnerabilities in the stuff I'm using that Paul might be using now. Or there might be vulnerabilities in Paul's stuff that I'm using or not using. Then we push all that up. Then you have confusion with versions. You have different security vulnerabilities for this version of something, different security vulnerabilities for this version of something. Now, at the end of the day, we don't want any vulnerabilities whatsoever, right? We want to completely remediate that. But we're introducing bugs into different things because we're using two different versions of two different things to build the same project. We don't want to do that. So by committing that lock file, I could pull that down and install the same stuff that Paul has on his machine, and we're savvy. Does that sound good? Thumbs up, sweet. But we have red flags to look out for, right? There's some red flags to look out for when investigating a bad package. And a couple of them look like this. Say you're on GitHub. Let's say this package has 0 GitHub stars and it's been around for a minute, right? There is nothing happening with that package. Maybe it's a new author that you've never heard of, right, at all. Or they have had no presence within the community. They've done nothing ever. And now this just pops up. There's no investigative work. You do investigative work. Nobody's heard of this person, right? Sounds a little sus to me. And then odd names, like odd names for packages, which, I mean, that's cool and all. Like, though, if you stick around for the talk after this, I talk about a fake package called UFO installer, right? It's not it's an odd name, I guess, if you're not into the paranormal and you don't believe in UFOs. But they're odd names. So these are kind of some of the things, not all, to look out for. When you're installing packages, you're doing your research on your packages to kind of just be wary about. So let's talk about the defenses. Let's talk about the shield, how to protect ourselves. And these are just some ways of doing it, not all ways of doing it. NPM audit or yarn audit. Is everybody running NPM audit or yarn audit like religiously? Like all the time when you fire up VS Code or fire up a terminal in your project? I'm always running NPM audit, like git status. I run git status all the time because I need to know what is going on because I might have forgotten what I just did, right? I need to know where the working tree is, etc. We don't have to talk about Git and GitHub. But NPM audit is really good. You can do this with yarn audit as well. If you were in your package, and NPM audit runs too when you install stuff, but it looks like this if you were to run NPM audit in your terminal or yarn audit. This is just an example. Added 1,500 plus packages, audited 1,500 packages in 52 seconds. Don't worry about the funding. Like if you want to fund these packages, cool. It's not my money. But this project specifically had 68 vulnerabilities, 9 low, 19 moderate, 37 high, and 3 critical. It's not going to tell you the CVEs, the common vulnerability and exposures, but it'll tell you, it can go a little bit deeper and tell you, it was this package and this package and this version, and these two versions might have been lumped together because it's 2 different packages but the same vulnerability. So there are ways you can work around this and figure these things out. One of the big ones, and I'm sure everybody gets annoyed by this one, is Dependabot. Does everybody get email, Dependabot emails all the time saying your packages are right? Okay. If you are using GitHub, you get Dependabot by default out of the box. You don't have to pay for it. You can go in your project, it'll tell you all different types of stuff. It'll tell you the package that's affected, the versions, the criticality, the severity level, the criticality level, the impact, various things. And this is, I think this was my blog. Yeah. I have Dependabot emails coming in all the time, and it's annoying, and I ignore them, and I shouldn't. But that's just one example. Another example is this tool from Snyk, S-N-Y-K. So this is really cool. This is for free. You can import a project in Snyk. So this was a project that I built for a talk called Close Encounters of the Data Kind. It's a UFO data promoting the cloud stuff. So you can import that from GitHub. What the hell was that? That was cool, right? You can import that from GitHub. You can check out the package.json file, and this will run a scan for you. And Snyk is a big, big company. They're security. That's what they do. This will tell you a bunch of cool stuff. This will tell you the package, the score number, all types of really, really cool information. So if you get a chance to check out this tool from Snyk, definitely check that out. You can also use GitHub Actions to run checks on your stuff. So one of them, you can check for vulnerabilities every time you push code. So if you can create a workflow, and that workflow will run an NPM audit or a yarn audit every time you push up code, and you can restrict it so if it's red, it won't push the code. The code won't get committed. If it's green, it passes the check, and you can put it through. And then you can see if it's red, it'll tell you in the NPM audit, you can go into your logs, and you can see which ones threw the errors, and then figure out a way to remediate that. So we have a couple minutes left. I want to leave you with some takeaways. We are building on the web, and we are shipping software. Assume nothing, right? Anything can happen at any given time, and things are rapidly changing. Just like accessibility, nothing will ever be 100% accessible. It just won't. It's a great North Star, but it's not going to be. Same with security. Nothing will ever be fortified 100% secure. It's a great North Star. But as ambassadors to the web, ambassadors to the world, ambassadors to our users, it is our job to make accessible, performant, secure applications for everybody. Also, pin your versions. This kind of goes back to the package.json file and the package lock. I'm sure a lot of you have seen the caret, which you've seen in some of these demos, a caret or a tilde. That talks about, use this version or higher. Get rid of that, pin your version, and keep it pinned. That way it's consistent. Commit your lock files. That's one thing that you always want to do. That way you can maintain consistency across your team. Scope your private packages. If you are building packages and systems out there, make sure that you're scoping them with the @ symbol, your org, your project, /. And then implement SCA tooling, software composition analysis. That's Dependabot, that's Snyk. There's probably a handful more out there. I want to leave you with this quote. This is from Endor Labs. Risk is risk. Always keep that in mind when you're building on the web. I know maybe a lot of us aren't really thinking about security all the time. Probably not thinking about performance and accessibility all the time. But these are things that we need to be thinking about when our hands touch the keyboard, when we're in meetings, when we're planning these projects. Here's the show notes QR code again. If you didn't get a chance to scan it the first time or if you came in late. Let me see, any phones up? I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10. All right, I'll give you like 20 more seconds because I got like 20 more seconds left. And like I said, if you want to stick around for the next talk, it'll be cool. Everybody cool with that? Sweet. Thank you. That's me. That's my time. Salt and Burnham on Twitter, ChrisDeMars.net on Blue Sky. I will be here for the next talk, so stick around. I won't be here. Oh, there we go. Look at that. My alarm went off. I can't stick around the rest of the day because I have to split. But if you have any questions, come catch me in the hallway or come up here and talk to me and stick around for the next talk. Thank you.